everybody, to Alida Hernandez, Spanglish Entertainment News. Today is February 21st, 2025. And today's guest is Curtis Stewart. He's a renowned violinist currently working with the Sphinx organization out of Detroit, Michigan. And they're embarking their tour now for 2025, their spring tour, which started out in Michigan and it's in Chicago right now and headed to some other states. And it'll be coming here to Florida March 24th. They'll be at the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens in Miami, I'm sorry. And the 25th, there will be a New World Symphony in Miami Beach. Then they will be coming up to on March 26th, it will be in Daytona Beach Symphony Society, which I will be attending, which I'm really looking forward to it. Then they'll be going to Tampa March 28th. And after that, they're heading to some other states. They're going to New York and I think Massachusetts. But you will see all our stuff on our posts regarding the Sphinx Music Organization. So that's just a little information about them. We're going to talk more with Curtis Stewart very soon and find out more about the program. But just to let you know, their impact, they have made a huge impact in children. They have been increased representation in the classical music and celebrating excellence through the Sphinx program, where they're serving beginner students, seasoned classical music professionals, cultural entrepreneurs, and administrators. And they're just doing a reach to help getting young children to learn classical music, which I think is awesome. So let's bring in Curtis Stewart and get this interview going. Hi, everybody. Alida Hernandez here at Spanglish Entertainment News. And today I have Curtis Stewart here, a renowned violinist. Was reading about him. He's been Grammy nominated 4 times.
Six times. I just made it
Oh,
to six. Yeah, I just
woo!
got two for this last recording that just came out last year. Anyway, here we are.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. So you're in the
Thank you.
2025 Grammy nominations, you're saying?
That's right. Yeah, I just came
Oh,
back
okay.
from it was like a tour of back and forth across the country from LA to DC to Seattle to Vancouver to Indiana and back home to New York.
Nice, nice.
Yep.
So when you go on tour, do you do you're a violinist.
Yeah.
So you perform solo or how does that work?
Yeah, so I bring my violin and I do these solos with either orchestras. I did a series of recitals called the American Recital in Vancouver, which was a little tough to perform given all that's going on right now, but it was a recital of kind of focusing on love and loss from the perspective of various composers from Coleridge Taylor Perkinson to Leonard Bernstein
Mm,
to Oscar Peterson. So all these composers who were deeply influenced by the blues.
mm.
And I was just the prompt for me to be promoting this quote unquote American recital was what a better time than now to be singing the blues. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And mu
yeah, but
and music's so healing. So,
yeah, it's a good, it's time to let it out. Sometimes I bring I had my computer with some electronics connected. Sometimes I have a set of concerts I do with violin and electronics. Other times it's me violin with orchestra. So it's
that's
twice
amazing.
a
I've always loved the violin. I love the sound of the violin. I bought a starter one, but I'm not very good with instruments, so I tried.
It's a tough instrument. I've been playing for 35 years.
Wow.
And I feel like I really only started finding my voice maybe 10 years ago. Like
Mm,
truly like to know what it feels like to feel like you're free and expressing yourself like you would be as you're speaking.
hmm
I think probably 10 years ago is when got a taste of that, and now I'm starting to feel. Um, I think the violin is probably for quasi-masochistic folks who just who like the pursuit of happiness, but not necessarily happiness.
Because it's a difficult instrument to
Oh, it's
master.
yeah, and it's there's so much pressure on it. You're
Mhm.
always playing the melody, you're always very high. The difference between this and this, I don't know if you can even see that.
I can see it.
Like
Yeah, the movement of your
yeah,
finger.
that tiny little movement
Right.
way up high on the instrument is huge. It's the difference between somebody sounding really squeaky and squawky versus
Wow.
really pristine. So
So you have to have really good, like muscular, work out those fingers.
working
Um,
working them fingers, yeah. But it's also a mental thing. like showing up. You just took a 5 hour flight. You're in a different time zone. You're stepping on that stage for the first time. Maybe it's a whole group of people you're looking at
Mhm.
that don't feel like you don't know if they're your vibe or not. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then you got to step up there and just
A
kick it. So
lot of
it's
pressure when you go up there and you got like 5,000 people waiting for you. You're
yeah.
like, ooh.
But it's a mental thing. It's like a mental
Yeah.
game. I'm assuming it's like probably like 1% of what it must be like to be a basketball player,
I guess that
if not
anything that,
similar.
right, right. My husband's actually a salsa singer,
Mm,
so I never have asked him really how I mean, he does prepare, and I see him, but and he'll get a little nervous. You always have those nerves, right before you're gonna get on stage. That
right.
I hope everything comes out good. Probably all the process in the brain, you're
Yeah.
thinking about it. Did I forget the word? Did I forget the song?
But it's sometimes that energy, it's like that's the mental games. Like where is that energy going to go?
Mm,
Is it like it's kind of like that fight or flight response, is this going to energize me or is this going to kind of hold me back? Is this going to get
mm.
me tight? So
Now,
that's
are you mostly playing classical music? You said you have influence with the blues too, but are you?
Yeah, I would argue that there is no American classical music without the blues.
Hmm,
I would argue that there is like even if you're talking about composers that you may not associate with the blues, like Aaron Copland, Leonard Bernstein, Jesse Montgomery, these deep quote unquote American
oh,
Americana.
Okay.
But if you think about what Americana is, it is deeply influenced by fiddle music, which is deeply influenced by the blues. So there is
Mhm.
really no to me, American music without some kind of blues. Um, Not to mention, all the influences of all the other peoples and folks that have come into the American. Uh,
Exactly.
so there's really no uh, my so the answer to your question is heck yes, it's classical music. It's always classical music, even if I'm improvising, even if I'm playing something that's, influenced by Latin American music, even if I'm playing stuff that's influenced by Indian classical music, it is deeply American classical music
Mm.
because of our ideals as Americans. So my answer to your question is yes. Even though it is I hear the argument too. If something sounds really blues oriented, sounds like really like it's coming from maybe quote unquote a different place. I can hear why one might not think of that as classical music
Classical.
given uh the images we've been given of classical music. You think of Bugs Bunny with the finger and
Yeah.
the coat, the tuxedo and
Yeah. Yeah.
the singers
Charlie
singing.
Brown.
Yeah, Charlie Brown, all these people singing in ways that we wouldn't ever want to be got dead singing. You know, um, so I can see why you would think a certain style of music is not classical in America. But I think my whole mission and my argument is that there is no American classic. If we're only
Right.
doing that version with the text and the singing, then we're actually playing European classical music.
Okay.
That's my argument.
Well,
So,
most of them, like my mother's a classical pianist,
yeah.
and her favorite is Chopin. She
Hmm.
plays Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, all those. So I grew up listening to the music. If I hear it, I know I've heard it before. I can't name it. I have to keep asking my mother, is it Beethoven? Is it
Sure.
Chopin?
Yeah, yeah.
But and I dabbled when I was young, very young, to play the piano, but I couldn't read the music. I was doing it
Mm,
by ear.
mm.
Couldn't After about 3 years, the teacher didn't even know. And I said to her, I can't read the music. What do you mean you can't read the music? I've never read the music. I've been following you for 3 years. How could you do that? That's
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah, your ear was that good. Right,
I would
exactly.
hear it and I could play it. So my mother always taught me to hear. So sometimes when my husband goes perform and he performs with a 12-piece orchestra,
Mm,
salsa orchestra. So we have like three or four horns and the percussion, the piano, bass. Um, and somebody they'll start playing and I'll start all of a sudden I hear somebody's off and I'm like, who's off? Like I can
mm.
tell if they're off.
Yeah,
Even if I don't know
right.
I don't know the notes, but I can hear the sound.
Yes, 100%. My wife is the same way. She's got very finely tuned ears, and so it's kind of like
Mm.
watching movie. I feel like listening to classical music is like watching a really good movie.
Mm.
or a really bad movie, whatever. Either way. But like when you can tell when you're not convinced by an actor.
Right.
You can tell when the direction is like, why would he just cut to that shot?
Yeah.
Or you can tell when the image is a little fuzzy, like what is going on here? Like there's a reason. And so listening to classical music is like watching a movie. So you can, but there is this sense that like, you have to know something. You have to know something before you can trust your opinion
Right.
to
Exactly.
classical music, but maybe you don't. You can just be like, this isn't for me, this is for me. Or you can say, this isn't for me right now. Because for me, there's certain music that I listened to when I was 18. I would get bored after like 2 minutes, and now I can't get enough of it. Like certain pieces by like Brahms
Mm,
or Wagner or something like that.
mm.
Like back in the day, I was just like, this is not. I get the first 2 minutes, but after that, I have a hard time listening to more than that.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
or I have a hard time listening to recordings for longer than that. But if I go to a concert, suddenly I can feel it
Feel
differently.
differently. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's okay. If you're having a feeling and you're listening to classical music, you're right. You know what I mean? You're right. You don't have to know something to know something.
Right. That's a good way to say it. And I hope people that are listening that will understand that and introduce themselves to classical music if they've never have,
Mm,
because they are shows, but not enough. That's
mm,
how I say. I don't think there's enough culture. I'm in Florida right now. Grew up in New York, so I grew up
mm,
going to Lincoln Center, Carnegie Hall.
mm.
My mother performed there as well back in, I don't know, 70s, 80s maybe.
Wow, cool.
And so I've been exposed to the arts because my mother made sure since I was 5 years old, seeing the Nutcracker at Lincoln Center, right?
Mm,
So so I've seen many shows there, but not everybody really says, "Oh, I want to go to a classical concert this weekend," because you can't
mm.
find one.
Right,
You can't find one.
right,
It's like once a year you get them to come in, like you guys are coming in doing a tour, and then you leave. And then
right.
sometimes I have stuff downtown Miami,
Mm,
and it's a whole point that with this I want to tell people, let's open the doors for classical music. Bring in these artists like the
mm,
Sphinx organization that you'll tell me about soon,
hmm.
and let's doors open so people can experience the music.
Mm.
I
That's
think
deep.
I
I was
think
just talking to the cab driver in Indiana. I was trying to get from one place, like it was an hour cab to get from the airport to the venue or whatever. And he
Mhm.
was like, "Yeah, there's no music." He was like, "There's no music here. Maybe Taylor Swift came through once, and she played at the Notre Dame Theater or something, and then that was it. And there might be some random jazz shows pop up at like
Wow.
at bars and stuff. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get music
I
that
mean,
like a show that's really produced. You know.
yeah, well, that's what we try to do here. I mean, most of the time we do salsa or we do freestyle music from the 80s and the 90s, like old school music that we grew up with. And we do events here. So,
Mm,
I mean, in Florida, there are events, a lot of events
mm,
on a weekly, daily basis here. But like again, I can't say that every weekend I'm going to find a classical
mm-hmm.
you know, orchestra or a violinist or a cello or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I can go to a little even if it's a cigar bar and have a celloist or violinist playing. That would be awesome, you
Wouldn't
know?
that be dope? Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Oh, that sounds great. That's a great idea.
right at a cigar bar, you'll be just like
Cigar bar concerts,
a
yeah.
nice cognac and you're having a
Yeah, you'd be like,
cigar.
ha ha ha. Yeah, you feel feeling different
Yeah,
feelings with that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that sounds
I mean, like I said, I grew up with music. I love all kinds of music. I listen to even music I don't even know the language, but I like the rhythm of the music and I
hmm
can feel something. You can get something from it, right? Like we were
hmm
saying. You can feel something even if it's not in your own language.
Right, right. Yeah.
So before we continue, we can go on a tangent here. I can talk art, music all day. So
Yeah.
um so
Actually, what did your mom, was your mom a vocalist or a pianist or what was your
pianist.
mom? Awesome.
Pianist. Yeah, she's a pianist, and a composer. She's still alive. She's 87 years old
Wow.
and she can still play the piano.
hmm
And that she doesn't forget.
mm
She was a composer. She wrote Latin ballads back
mm
in 61 and 62 around then.
mm.
So, and she was a model. She was on cover of magazines. She did a lot of things when she was younger.
Wow.
My father was also a pianist and he played with the the big Fania groups, back
Oh
in the day,
wow.
the salsa in New York. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, that is one thing about like the music that I learn forms totally frames and forms my memories of a certain time of my life. When I think of a certain time of my life, I'm thinking about the music that I've learned or the music I was listening to, including like pop music and whatever I happen to be listening to and whatever like feels like it hits my creativity and my expression.
Hmm.
And it is the soundtrack of my life.
Yeah.
And to like not have a certain intensity of music in your life, I can't imagine for me what it would be like to live without a certain kind of intensity to my music making. I mean, I'm a musician. I'm a composer, so that I guess that's not surprising, but it's like I guess you don't really know what you're missing unless you try it out.
Well, that's what I try to tell people because we grew up in the age, I just turned 60. So I'm
Mm.
proud of I made it to 60.
Yeah.
So, so in my life, we didn't have, when we were kids, we had no internet, we had no cell phones, we didn't have video games till the
Mm.
80s when they started coming out, or Atari came out in the 70s. But our life was music. Our life was going to roller skating rink, going to
Mm.
the dance club. Since I was 14, there used to be a Sunday disco from 12 to 5 for teenagers under 16 years old, like
Mm.
12 to 16 in
Mm.
Astoria, Queens, New York. And I would go every Sunday over there after church. We would go rush to go to the disco and we just spend there all day drinking soda and dancing.
Right.
So, like what you say about memories of music, I have that too. I know what I
Right.
did when I was a teenager, roller skating from 14 to 17 years old. Then we started going to the clubs. So I know the music, the freestyle music I was listening to, the 80s hip hop, different things that we went to.
Hmm. And
And
the people you were with, like
yeah,
the memories you formed with those people that
yeah,
were with you. It's like
yeah.
music and social life, they like go together.
Right. And you meet
That's
all
the
different
meaning of it.
you meet so many different types of people because I didn't really stay with the Latin music, even though it's in my blood and everything. I didn't do it no till older now. But I
Mm.
was more into, I would go to the Ritz and go to the rock concerts. I saw like In Excess and Duran Duran play
Mm.
live,
Mm.
when they were nobody, they were playing down at the Ritz. So I
Hmm.
remember all those things and I think music is so important. Music, if I'm sad, I'll put something on. If I'm happy, I put something on.
All right. Yeah, yeah. It accompanies, it's our soundtrack.
Yeah,
It truly is. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
That was awesome.
Well,
No,
that's
I
kind of
thought
that's the thing. That's why I think groups like, okay, here we go. This is, Sphinx is this organization that um, finds musicians and composers that are of African American and Latine descent. Let me know if I said that right, because I know there's the
I don't know. I still
there's
say
Latin X, there's
Latino.
you know what
I don't
I'm always trying
know.
to say it right.
I'm not too politically correct,
Okay,
okay?
all right, all right, all right.
We
Um,
get it. We get
yeah,
it.
yeah, okay. Um, and they're trying to bring that both the musicians and the culture and the folks with them into this world. They're already in this world. We want more of, we want to vibe and
Yeah.
bring those people with us. And so that's been kind of a guiding light for me. I was a young kid in college applying to the Sphinx competition. So,
Mhm.
young players could apply and they work real hard and it's extremely competitive. There's really great players. You get to play on the stage of the Detroit Symphony Hall with an orchestra. And
Mhm.
um, I was constantly applying for that. And then I actually aged out of that and started just attending the conference that they have where all these teachers, thinkers, administrators, players, composers from all around the country get together and hang out and exchange ideas. Um, and then this last year, 2024, they awarded me with the Sphinx Medal of Excellence for some of my work that I've been doing to promote the music of folks of color in the country. I'm the artistic director of the American Composers Orchestra. We have these two concerts at Carnegie Hall. I've been, programming people, just bringing the music that I love and that I find excellent
Mhm.
to that stage. I've been, playing their works with my string quartet, public quartet. We do like newly written music and improvised music. So if there are composers who are primarily like electronics musicians, like for example, there's a composer named Jalen from Indiana at Chicago. She does this music called Footwork, and it's all electronics, and it's so dope when you're in the club listening to it. So we asked her to create a track for us that we could improvise to as we play that quartet. And so, and then I had these albums that I've been putting out of my own individually that have, been nominated for the Grammys and the classical. Arguably, I mean, there was one album that was put out in the classical thing. It's called Of Power that somebody somewhere um, said was in the wrong category. They said that
Oh,
it was the Grammys doing DEI wrong. That's what they
oh,
said.
oh
And
my
then
God.
that went to like New York Times, that went to Al
Oh, it
Jazeera,
did?
The Guardian, that went to all these publications.
Wow.
Um, and then ended up performing at the Grammys, and that ended that conversation. So I think Sphinx has deeply supported my work, and they just the Sphinx Virtuosi are performing, they're touring. We just recorded the piece that I wrote for them for strings and drum set, which kind of takes the music of drill music from Chicago
Mm.
mixed with its version drill music from the Bronx. I was living in the upper corner of Manhattan, like right on the edge of the Manhattan and the Bronx. It's called Inwood, and like it's above Washington Heights. That's how far up it is.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever been
Um,
there.
and so during the pandemic, we'd be out. We were trapped inside. Then finally, we got outside dining where we could be outside. And whenever we'd be relaxing, and then every 20 minutes, these like gangs of motorcycles would be like running up and down, playing this like loud music, and their motorcycles were busting, and it was like really hectic. But for us during that time, that was relaxing because we were finally outside. We were
Some
trapped
noise,
in a,
something.
we were like living, yeah.
Yes.
So I was like, what is that music that they're going on their motorcycles? And so I checked it out. It ended up being mostly Pop Smoke, that song Dior by Pop Smoke. And so I was like checking that music out, and I just started to check out. There were all these like versions of it in Spanish, and then there were all these versions
Oh,
like I could tell in different like dialects of Spanish from the Bronx. And I was like, oh,
oh, wow.
I gotta like check this out. And so I started breaking it down. And so the piece for that Sphinx is performing on tour is a mixture of my own influences with the strings and then this very drill drum set part. That's so difficult. I mean, for the guy Josh Jones is just like a massive virtuoso on the drums,
Ooh.
and he's just, I mean, it's like he's playing with all four limbs at all
Oh,
times.
wow. Is it going to be
Yeah.
performing when they come out here to Florida?
Yes. Yeah, I think
Oh, so
so.
I can't wait. I'm
Drill.
going to the one in Daytona Beach.
Okay.
So I'm taking my mother. Taking
Okay.
my mother, so she's excited about it. And I always looking for opportunities to take my mother to any classical concerts and
Yes.
anything that's going on. But like I said, we got to bring more. We got to
Yep.
see we can maybe I can work with you guys. I can help you with a venue here. We can do something out here,
Yeah.
in
I mean, they do this
Orlando.
tour. Yeah, they do this tour every year. So
Oh, okay.
I'm
So
not
we just
sure.
well now, hopefully now I'll be putting it in the magazine, so hopefully people will read it and see it and just learn about, your events. So they
Yeah.
still have time to get tickets in Miami. They got one in Miami and one in Miami Beach at
Cool.
Vizcaya and also at the Symphony in Miami Beach, the new Symphony
Okay.
at
Part
Miami
of the
Beach.
new World Symphony?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the New World Symphony. So there's two places in Miami you can go see it. Then it's Daytona Beach. We got Tampa, and I forgot the other one. I think there was another city. I
Let me
know
see
it's
if I can.
Tampa. Let me see here. No, that's not there. I don't know where I put it now. But I
Uh,
know I know it was going. Oh, here it is. It's going to so we're going to Miami first, the 24th of March, 25th of March, they're going to be in Miami Beach. And then
hmm
the 26th, Daytona, which I'm going to, and then 28th in Tampa. And then they're
That's right.
gone from
And
Florida.
then they're gone. They head back up north to Massachusetts.
Massachusetts and then New York, and then like I said, they'll be done for that.
Yeah. That's
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a
So
big
next
tour.
so next year we need to add Orlando.
That's right. That's
Orlando's
right.
very big. There's a lot of tourists in Orlando. It would be an excellent place to have it. And there are many, many venues that we can look at, to do it in Orlando. I always trying to help people to get over here because sometimes
That's
I'm like, you missed our city.
yeah, yeah, right. Well, I'm sure they would love to hear that from you. I mean, I'm just on the Sphinx train for this one piece, and it's just been
So will you,
it's an
like we said,
honor.
we'll be hearing your music then that you've composed in this tour.
Yeah, I composed one of the pieces, the drill piece.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
that one is gonna challenge your sense of what is if it is classical music or not. I think that's the question. I want more people to show up so that they can tell me whether they what their opinion
All
is.
right, I'll remember
Because
that
the
when I go.
yeah, many times people are asking whether the drum set part is improvised or not, and it's totally notated. Every single note and
Wow.
every hit and every instrument is I'm a control freak, as they say. And so it's all notated.
Wow.
But people think that he's improvising because he's so
Wow.
virtuosic about it. So it's
Wow.
it's
Well,
it's
yeah.
something to check out. Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to go. I haven't seen anything like this in a very long time, so I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Thanks
So,
for thanks for being interested in checking it out.
oh yeah, I'm really happy that I got the information, and I always like to bring things like this to the masses, right? Anything about the arts, and especially, it's doesn't matter if it's Black History Month or Hispanic Month or whatever it is. I think every day we need to look at our children, help our children grow, and music is a great avenue to have children. I think music helps them mentally. I think even just for the regular education,
Mm.
like they say, I don't know if they say that you have a little more, you use more of your brain, right? You're
Hmm.
learning music, you're reading notes, and then you're studying regular, to math and everything else you need to
Right.
do.
Right.
But it's nice to
Well,
keep the kids in that environment.
even using a certain kind of musicality while you're learning math and English I mean, it is a memory tool. Music is
Mm,
memory. I think like the way we hear music, it becomes part of your rhythm and what you
hmm.
hear, and what you remember, how you recall things. So
Yeah,
it's
it
deep in
is.
there.
It is. My kids like music, but they're not like I am or my family. And I don't know how, because since they were little, the music was playing all the time.
Mm,
Before they were born, I had the headset on my belly. I used to,
mm,
and I would play a lot of Mozart and a lot of classical music while I was pregnant.
mm,
So just to keep him calm, I said, I don't want to put some house music. He's gonna be like, what the heck's going on in there?
mm.
I'm like with the house music.
You're just like, what's happening?
Because I
That's
used to
funny.
live in LA back then, and that
Hmm.
was when we had like the 90s house music.
Mm,
And it was like house music, but with the influence with like the Mexicans and the Latinos in
cool.
California,
That
like
sounds
the
good.
West Coast music. So yeah. And then my friend of mine always had a mixtape. Yeah, I got a new tape.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Wow.
so
That
yeah.
sounds that sounds great. I would love to hear some of that. That sounds really
Yeah,
cool.
I wish like we didn't keep a lot of that stuff from. I have to look if I even have CDs left. I
Mm.
don't even have a CD player. Like
Right.
every
No.
time you
A
buy
CD,
something new, they'll take the CD out. What the heck does CD go?
you better anybody who has a CD player, you better hold on to that. The thing's going to be worth quite a bit if it works in 10 years. I was actually just working with a Miami-based artist named Alberto Checa with the music that he similar to what you were talking about. His
Oh yeah.
mom was listening to music, and then he was listening to music, and he put that into his sculptures. So he created a sculpture with her voice as well as some of the music that she would listen to, and he made
Oh,
this sculpture that was a record player, but he made it out of ice, so that as you listen to it, it would melt and it was like memory, like the it would melt
oh,
and it would
wow.
skip and do all this stuff. So I made a string quartet that kind of emulated the sound of that
Wow.
melting record player. Um, but I love the idea that there's these like you said in the '90s in California, there's this mixtures of cultures. You can feel what that. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
exciting to feel what that would have been like.
And the 90s, okay, and then the 80s, right? I got there in the late 80s, so I liked my long-haired rock. So you had all those. So I used to go to the clubs and
Oh,
see Guns N' Roses,
wow,
Poison, Rat before they were famous. They were about the
wow,
Troubadour, all
wow.
these people there, and I would be like, they're like, Alida, you like rock and roll? I go, I'm born in New York. I have every music you can think. I can listen to Chopin, I can listen to Bret Michaels or Guns N' Roses to Donna Summer to.
Did you ever see the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I haven't seen them. I know they're
Okay.
very
Yeah, yeah.
good.
That was
I
that
like
time
them.
too. So they were just starting.
Yeah, I remember. I remember. I don't
Yeah,
know. Maybe I did because I went to some concerts that they had a mix of different artists.
maybe they were there.
And so, I mean, I remember seeing Ricky Martin back then and
Wow.
Britney Spears. I saw Britney Spears back in the day when she was performing.
Wow.
Christina Aguilera. Bon Jovi, U2. I used to go to a lot of concerts, but yeah, see, now you're giving me memories. I'm thinking about where was I?
Exactly. There you go. That's the
I
point.
saw the Rolling Stones in 1989 in the
Mm,
LA Coliseum,
mm.
which is not even, I think it's closed now, the LA Coliseum, or they knocked it down.
Wow.
1980 down, they did the Steel Wheel Tour or something. I remember that. Yeah,
See? Pulling it.
yeah, yeah, I could pull out. So
Memory. Anyway,
anyway, Curtis, thank you so much for your time. We've been on here for a little while. It was a great conversation.
yeah.
And I really appreciate you. Let me
Thank you too. Yeah, looking forward to what yeah, all to come.
just